For 2 weeks, doing lots of excursions, $4,200 give or take in New Zealand. And for the total for me for 28 days was around $5,500. Hey everybody, welcome back to my personal YouTube channel where I talk about adventures and things that I've done planning and share it with my family. And if it gives you some inspiration on an adventure you'd like to go to, feel free to stick around. So today we're going to talk about finances. Ooh, very fun. But you might be thinking, yeah, going to New Zealand's great and all up here, but how much is it actually going to cost? I want to share with you a budget breakdown of how much everything costs so you have an idea of how much to save if you want to go on a trip like this. I'll start off by saying that, there's different ways to do things as far as transportation goes, as far as food goes, as far as housing and lodging goes. The sky's really the limit on how expensive you want to go on this, and we'll kind of parse out some nuance on what we did and what I've heard other people do throughout the video. So the first thing we'll go over is hostels/housing. So for this, we stayed in 12 minus 1, 11 different hostels. And one of those was a motel. So 10 hostels, 11 different accommodations. It ended up being a grand total of $300 per person. So you could definitely do more expensive. From when I spoke with people, if you have a large group, booking Airbnbs is more cost effective. If you have a group of like 5 to 8, it's actually more affordable than booking a hostel. But if you have a small group, like 1 to 3 people, it may make more sense for hostels. Another rationale or logic behind booking hostels was to make new friends and meet new people. That usually was the case, but one thing I learned with going to New Zealand hostels is you typically have to step outside of your comfort zone in order to make new friends and like socialize. It's not like hostels, from what I've been told, in like Bali or Australia, where they're centered around a bar, everyone's a little boozed up, and you've got that social lubricant, and you've got like a central thing bringing everybody together. You kind of have to step out of your way and say, hey, like, where are you from? Nice to meet you and all that. Like, be a person. So, yeah, these are all the hostels we stayed at. Average price per person. The most expensive was the motel, $81. And I'll include a link to this spreadsheet too if you want to take a look at it. But so it was like these big numbers here are designed for 2 to 3 people. And then these are what it ended up being price per person. So anywhere from $81 to $18 for accommodation. Not bad. So now we're going to go on to transportation expenses. I was very diligent as far as Ubers go, documenting the cost and gasoline. And with Ubers, gasoline, everything factored in, it was $240.97 per person for a rental car. And that's including Ubers to get around from the airport, to drop off the rental car, to pick it up and everything like that. Now the cost of the rental car is not factored into that. The rental car is a little pricey at around $700 a person, and that's for 2 weeks. So just something to keep in mind. There's other ways you can do transportation. You could book a bus like the Kiwi experience, and it's hop on, hop off, and you go around. Pros to that, you don't have to worry about driving, rental car, any of that. If you're below the age of 25, you may not be able to rent a car, so that might make sense. Downsides is you don't have the autonomy of a car. You don't have as much authority over where you go. You're very confined to wherever that bus takes you and drops you off. I've met other people who've taken intercity bus and traveled. You can buy it by the hours, or you can buy just a bus ticket to get from city to city. That's another option if you don't want to rent a car. A lot of people will rent camper vans and just sleep in the camper van. And yeah, the only drawback I found to that is it being socially isolating. Like if you're there with your spouse or something, yeah, get a camper van, have some time to yourself. But if you're trying to make new friends, meet new people, going on a camper van, from my perspective, isn't always the best way to mingle with people because you're just kind of in your own little silo. It's fun, different for different experiences, different people. We did a rental car and stayed in hostels. That was how we did our transportation. Anyway, so it gives you a little taste of how much rental car cost and gas expenses. We had a hybrid vehicle for the South Island, and that was actually very fuel efficient, and I'm surprised at how affordable gas was. Now, granted, this is US dollars, 240 US dollars. So, we're going to chuck right along to individual expenses. This is going to be our flights, food that I bought for myself individually, souvenirs, and miscellaneous expenses. So we'll start with flights. The flight to actually get out to New Zealand, the first one with Hawaiian Air was $438. Not too bad. But then the flight to get back to the United States for me was a little more pricey at $946. Now, granted, I had to fly directly. I did Queenstown, Auckland, San Francisco, New York. So you could probably find a more affordable flight if it was just directly Auckland to LAX, maybe in that $500 budget range. But because of all the connections, I believe that's what added up to making it more expensive. I also had a flight from the North Island to South Island. We didn't catch a ferry. That was $130. So for flights altogether, we're in the whole $1,600. Personal food, we spent, pies, getting gelato. We went out and got some steaks, got some beers, cough drops, got some scones at Hobbiton. That ended up being $61 for me personally. Souvenirs, I splurged and got some merino wool sweater and some t-shirts. Luckily we got that currency conversion, but so between like patches, postcards, different things like that, $308 on souvenirs. And then miscellaneous expenses, when we did the canyon swing, when you're there in the moment, if there's time, they offer if you want to do a second swing. So I did that. That ended up being $40. And then I got some cash at an ATM. So for individual expenses, it ended up being $2,132. Granted, it's pretty skewed with the flight cost. That's why it's so high up there. So food expenses, moving on. We were pretty budget friendly as far as food goes on this trip. We went to grocery stores and stocked up on trail food because we did a lot of hiking. So first of all, the best grocery store, what we learned, is Pack and Save. Fun side note about New Zealand, there's a duopoly on the grocery industry. It's Woolworths / Countdown, same company, and then Pack and Save / Foursquare. And they have cornered the market in New Zealand on the grocery industry, from my understanding. And what that means is they have like non-compete closures, and they are the only grocery stores that can set up shops in towns, which I thought was fascinating. But so we went to Pack and Save for the most part, and we'd stock up. We'd get tuna, tortillas, things that were like calorically dense and hiking friendly. Lots of cans of tuna. The bread was really awesome. But groceries ended up being $300 for groceries, so about $150 per person. Now you could go more expensive and do bougie and eat out more, but for us, we didn't come to New Zealand to eat out. We came to go on adventures and stuff, and that's our logic and our rationale behind it. You do what works for you. Excursion expenses. This is where, bigger, more costly aspect of our budget. So we'll kind of run down the line. I'll just throw out the different events. We did Hobbiton, that was $70. Waitoma Glowworm Caves, $40. Tongariro Shuttle, $37, but about $40. Maruha Beach Water Taxi, $30. Canyon Swing with photos, $197. Plus that other $60, so that's probably like $250. Then the Lord of the Rings Scenic Tour, that was $121. Kind of pricey. And the Milford Sound Cruising Kayak, $183. So excursion costs $691 and 23 cents, around $700. Worth every penny. Super phenomenal. All the excursions were fun. Looking back on it, Waitoma Glowworm Caves, I feel like that's a one and done. See it and you're good. Hobbiton, worth every penny. I would do the banquet. I would do the evening thing. That's my thing. I really loved it and enjoyed it. Tongariro Shuttle, great. Water Taxi, great. Canyon Swing was super thrilling and fun. I liked that more than bungee jumping. But that will be in my expenses and finance just breakdown for my individual adventure. Blah, blah, blah. So, to bring it all back together, New Zealand, you're looking at about, for 2 weeks, and you want to do some excursions, but you're going to save some money on the food end of things and the accommodation end of things. You're looking at $4,200. That's including flights and everything. And granted, I stayed for another 2 weeks, and I added up another $1,000. But we'll parse out some of the nuance on why I was able to do it for so cheap for 2 more weeks. But it was worth every single penny. I'd pay that price tag, every day of the week and twice on Sunday. And yeah, so now you know how much to save up for a small power hour 2 week excursion trip in New Zealand. You can definitely spend more. You could probably spend a little bit less, but if you wanted to like skimp out on excursions and do more hikes and things like that. So that's how much I spent on the New Zealand trip. I hope this helps give you an idea of planning, financing, budgeting, how much to expect to spend. At the time we went to New Zealand, currency conversion was, in the words of my friend Charlie, quite lovely. For the US dollar, it was a 0.61 conversion rate, meaning that everything was on 40% discount, which was nice. I hope this serves you well, and yeah, I'll see you in the next video.